What's up, everybody? I'm Nathan Graham Davis, and I'm going to re-break in as a Hollywood screenwriter. So it's week 14, which means it's the first week in which I'm supposed to be stepping away from this whole thing for a little bit and resetting and researching and doing some other things and getting reads on my screenplay. And I did finish the rough draft of Ether last week, which is just awesome. I'm super excited about that. But also, I know that it's not quite ready for readers yet. And so let me clarify what I mean by that a little bit. Obviously, if you've got a rough draft, it's not going to be perfect. I mean, that's why you want to get eyes on it, right? That's why you want people who know what they're talking about to give you feedback. And I don't think that you can get better as a writer unless you go through that process of writing and getting notes and then considering them and then revising and just doing that over and over again. You need that mentorship and that feedback to improve. But one of the fastest way that you can burn through those readers is to send them something that shows you don't care. Because if you don't care, then why should they? So I went through this whole thing line by line. I don't know if you can see this, but you can see like even on page 1, there's a lot of red marks on it. And it's a good thing that I did that because, I found things as simple as typos, which have no business being in a script that I'm sending out to readers. I found on-the-nose dialogue that I could easily improve. I found action lines that needed to be clarified or just trimmed up and tightened. I also found things that I didn't set up very well, or places where scenes needed to breathe a little bit more or be cut back. I found a small plot hole, which I know how to fix. And I found, that I do have a chore ahead of me in terms of just some things some scenes that I need to restructure in the first half of Act 2. So it's a decent amount of work. It's going to take me at least the rest of the week, but it'll be worth putting in that effort because I want to send the best version of Ether that I can out to my readers. So when I'm done with that, it's going to go out to Jeff Willis and Christy LeBlanc and Christy Lowry, and I'm super excited to get their feedback because they are all amazing writers. I'm also terrified to do that because they are going to be giving me that feedback on camera on week 16. So that should be pretty interesting. Make sure to subscribe so that you don't miss it. This week I'm talking to Matt Altman. He is a killer action writer, and I'm just really interested to see what his process is like when he finishes a draft. How does he reset and refocus? What does he work on in the interim between drafts? How does he set himself up for a great rewrite? So I think that should be a pretty cool conversation. Also, Matt is somebody who seems to just know people, so interested to see what he has to say about networking. And here we go.
Hello.
What's up, Matt? How are you, man?
I'm good, man. How you doing?
Doing all right. So catch me up on like the last 4 to 5 years since I last saw you.
Let's see. I sold feature Red Widow, which got on the hit list in 2016, and that got me in the guild finally. I'd sold a script to Relativity, but they went bankrupt. It was sort of sci-fi action, over-the-top action, and we got the announcement. We got the deal was settled on, but it was going back and forth to the lawyers, and we're like, man, this is taking a long time. And like a year later, we're like, it still has to. Come on, this is. And then they
year is a little long.
Then they declared bankruptcy. We were like,
oh, that's brutal. That sucks.
So I got the script back, but that didn't really help me much.
Yeah.
So I would have joined then, but so I sold Red Widow, and then I got a job the next year adapting a YA novel for Lionsgate Summit.
Okay, nice.
I had to pitch on that for almost a year against other.
Wait, a year writers. Of pitching just to win it?
Yeah, and it was just a basic, standard. I think $50,000 total rewrite.
That's crazy. Like
but it's tight these days. It's hard to get this, even those basic jobs. Those were the kind of jobs you used to get when you sold a script. Just they would just hand it to you. But not anymore. Now this competition is fierce. So, but it was fun. It was a great experience. And then let's see, I've optioned a bunch of stuff with my friend Dave for a bunch of horror movies and a couple of action films. And then I sold a script to Solstice last year, which was the last big project. And hopefully something happens with that. We're waiting to see on a couple of things.
So it's all been kind of like action or horror genre type stuff, or
Yeah, the Red Widow is a female-driven action revenge thriller. It's now called Athena, but
yeah, man.
then
What I was assuming that was the same one.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
dude, that is just a killer action movie through and through.
Glad you dug it.
I mean, it's exactly what you want when you show up for an action movie. So super cool. So
Awesome.
has that gone through like a lot of different, revisions in the way?
Yeah, it was sold to SDX. They sort of acquired Peppermint around the same time, and they decided to make that instead, but they were going to make it as a Chinese movie for a while. And then the three big Chinese stars that could have done it, one of them went to prison, the other two passed. So
Oh man, God, that's awful.
So they basically have been nice. They've been letting us sort of shop it around, see if someone else wants to acquire it. And we had a director attached, and I did a bunch of rewrites for him, which is how it ended up becoming a thing. And I did a bunch for the producers before we went to the director, just to, get it to where everyone was happy and thought it could be, something they can actually make and do something.
Sure.
Different. And then,
so is it kind of in this like stasis right now, or?
I think there's some interest from a director who had loved it earlier. And if he likes it, then it could go. It'll probably end up somewhere else other than SDX.
It's funny how much of that happens, though, right?
Yeah.
And then suddenly it all comes together, and hopefully that's what you see happen with it. So you spec'd that, obviously. Like, where did that all come from? Is it something that you'd been sitting on a while, or?
I love action. I've been doing martial arts since I was a kid. I have a 6th Dan black belt in Kempo and a 3rd Dan black belt in Taekwondo. So I always like writing action movies, and I've been writing female-driven stuff for a while now because I really think that there's a lot of stuff that can be done in the action that you sort of seen with male fronted movies, and I'm like, I'd like to see this version. And I feel like I write solid characters, female and male. And, I'm pretty happy with how they turn out. So.
Yeah, man, you totally should be. Like I said, I mean, it's just kind of exactly what you want when you're going to the movies to see an action flick. It's awesome.
That's so I'm glad you like it.
For sure. So like you had some really incredible action sequences in there. One that, is it okay if I talk about like specifics a little bit at all? Or, okay, so like there was this one where like you had Sarah, your protagonist, and then Ruby, this fight that kind of took place from like a yard to a house to a couple Teslas and then one Tesla. And it was just like absolutely nuts. The other one that comes to mind just off the bat is the one that took place in the museum.
Yeah.
And so she started using like all the museum weapons that just happened to be there at her disposal. And I was just like, how have I not seen this before? This is perfect and awesome.
Glad you said that. Yeah.
So like, I'd love to kind of pick your brain on, do you have a process when it comes to writing action? Like, have like theories that you've developed through the process, or?
I think I tend to choreograph that stuff in my head anyway. So, I learned, I used my original scripts when I was writing, when I just started out, I had action sequences that were like 20 pages long because I was choreographing every single move. And through trial and error and learning how to really write a script, I figured out, how to write a solid action scene that had all the beats I wanted, but and was pretty detailed, but not overwhelming, and not like more than 2 or 3 pages. Usually, maybe 4 if we're pushing it. But I tend to just choreograph it out. I think because of my background, I know what works and what doesn't work, and sort of what a natural reaction would be. The only time I usually have trouble is with I have a character who is like either untrained or something, and I have to figure out what would the mindset be, or how would they react in this situation. I always sort of just go from the character where they're at, and then try to make it work. And then usually I'm trying to make some sort of character beats happen too during the action.
Right, because it's going to get boring. Like
yeah. I mean, if I just have punched him and kicked him, you could just say flurry of blows and that's it. But you want actual turns there.
I think like a great example of that for me was like the Matrix sequels. Like loved the first Matrix. The Matrix sequels though had these long action sequences that were just, they were brilliant, like as far as just the choreography and the stunts and the cinematography and all that, right?
Yeah.
But like they were totally missing those character beats that they really needed in order to kind of
and they were all throughout the first one, which is why the first one's so brilliant.
Right. Oh, absolutely, man.
Yeah. I absolutely agree.
You mentioned like you used to have these like 20-page action sequences, and now it's more like 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Like, how do you know when? Because that's the other thing about the script. Like the pacing was just rock solid. Like,
thanks.
I'm sure it's something that you've just developed instinct for, because you've written.
Yeah, I mean, I've written a lot of scripts at this point,
right?
Yeah, that definitely helps.
But do you think like you could kind of zero in on how you get that feel for when something is wearing out its welcome, or when it needs to be teased out a little bit longer?
Yeah, I mean, again, it helps that if you write a lot of scripts and you read a lot of scripts,
it does.
and you sort of get a more of an instinctual feeling of where the sort of meat of it is, and what's excess. And I find, sometimes it'll start longer, and I'll cut it down in the rewrite, because I'll realize this is all extraneous. We don't need this, and this. But I think, again, it's the character beats. As long as you get those turns in, that's the key. And if you feel like you're putting a bunch of extraneous stuff that's just sort of filler, I mean, like in the end, it's going to be a fight choreographer and someone else creating the scene.
Right.
They might use what you wrote as a jumping off point, and they might like some of the ideas you have in there, but it's all going to be their choreography and what they're doing. So, as much as I love it, it's something I know that it's a blueprint, just like any script, and it's not.
It's funny that you say that. I was just talking with a former stunt coordinator who was a stunt man before that, became a stunt coordinator for major movies, and is now going off into producing. And super cool guy. And we talked for a while because he had been reading a couple scripts of mine. And I was just kind of curious, like, what's he looking for in terms of that? Because a lot of my scripts have these action elements, right? And like, I'm like, what's exciting to you as somebody that's with this stunt coordinator background when it comes to action? Like, I'm kind of curious to see what you think of the action that I just wrote, since that's your area of expertise. And dude is like, look, I mean, at the end of the day, we're just going to design something that works with the set and what we have to work with, and the budget that we have to work with. And what we're looking for is the character moments. And I was just like, because here I am talking to somebody who, like, that is his area of mastery, right? That is his job, and he's the cream of the crop as far as that stuff goes. And he's looking for the character beats, So I think that just really hits home.
Yeah, it's nice to give them something to work with. Again, the character beats are the most important thing. But if you can like inspire some cool ideas, that's always fun too.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like, you're a writer, you should be able to come up with some really cool ideas, which is, I think what we all aspire to do. And we all would love to see our awesome set pieces and, exchanges wind up on the big screen, or hopefully there continue to be big screens after all this shit.
There will be. It's definitely shifting, but and I think streaming's going to be huge. I mean, you heard the whole Warner Brothers thing.
Oh man, like, but, and it's kind of, I don't necessarily think that's all doom and gloom, but it's definitely a change, In
a lot of ways, it's going to open it up for a lot of people who weren't able to see movies on the big screen because it's just too expensive. But
Yeah, or even just like,
or too
it's
much,
tough for
taking it
us
out
with
of the day.
two kids to get
Yeah,
out
yeah.
like for all these movies, right?
No, absolutely.
So
You can see it late at
um
night when they're asleep in
that
the
or like, like
in
maybe we
pieces.
can't come up with 4 hours to go and take them to the movies, but we
Right.
have 2 hours and we can
Right.
have a family movie night at home. You know what I mean? So like
Yeah.
there's stuff like that that totally makes sense. But certainly like I got into this wanting to get movies on the
Yeah.
big screen,
Same.
and
And I honestly don't think they're ever going to go away because there is something special about that, shared experience. And I think, especially with the big event movies, people want to see them on the big screen. They want to see it with a bunch of people. Marvel movies, sure, you could watch it at home. And the Wonder Woman, everyone's excited. They're going to want to see it as soon as, we get some control over this pandemic. People will still want to see it in the theaters because it's going to be
yeah,
awesome.
absolutely. Totally. And maybe so like this summer drive-throughs were a bigger thing than they've been in a long
Yeah.
time, right?
Yeah.
Like maybe we'll see a resurgence in those too.
There
Just
definitely could be. Yeah.
and that would be awesome because I mean, drive-throughs are just sick. Like,
Yeah.
I'm all about those.
A return to old school.
Right? Yeah. So I don't know. Who knows where it's going to go, but it's definitely, there's no question that it's changing.
Yeah.
The last one of these that I was doing, I just was talking with the Parlopanides bros, and they were just talking about how like features right now are absolutely dead as far as selling anything, and like
it's tough. It's really tough.
Just because nobody knows which way the wind is going to blow right now. So
though luckily streamers are still picking some up, but
yep.
But yeah, it's tough. The spec market is not great right this second. But
are you speccing anything new right now, or?
Oh yeah, I've got a sci-fi one I wrote with my friend Dave. The
Dave
Matalon.
Okay.
Yeah, I've known him for almost 25 years now. Back in New York,
awesome.
was when we met. But he was like my only friend when I came out here, and we've written a bunch of scripts together. We optioned a movie that almost got made called The Feud, and we've written probably 12 scripts together, maybe more at this point. But we have different reps, and we're not officially a team, so that has its own. Our reps don't like it.
Yeah, I can see that being tricky. So how do your reps like?
They don't like it, but they'll do it because they're still our reps, and they basically coordinate. They have their own connections on each side. He's a Paradigm, I'm a Gersh. We have our own managers, and they'll just take the people they know and go out in different directions. And we just wrote another one that I sent to my manager, and he sent to his. It's a sort of sci-fi time travel heist movie.
So you guys have done a dozen of these together? That's
least
crazy.
At this point. And then I've written probably 40 scripts on my own, and he's probably somewhere close.
That's awesome.
I've been doing it full time for almost 10 years now, so
that's awesome.
You rack up a lot at that point because
that's legit, dude. So one thing I'd love to just circle back on real quick, because for people who might be kind of trying to work their way through taking their writing to the next level.
Yeah.
We were talking about character beats in action, which probably sounds kind of ethereal to people who haven't kind of really worked with that before.
Right.
Do you think you can kind of like define that a little bit better, or
I can give you a good example, even though Mr. and Mrs. Smith is a great example of action as character beats, because you can see
great example
the dissolution of the relationship in the beginning, and then sort of them coming together and becoming more excited and interested in each other as they sort of learn that they're not who they thought they were, and the fight scenes sort of illustrate all the emotional beats in the movie throughout, which is pretty amazing. So that's one of my favorite illustrations of that.
That's a great example.
But honestly, any decent action. I mean, look at John Wick. Derek was great with how he designed the action and sort of made us see each who this person was, and everything was motivated from a certain a certain thing, this one event in this
Right, and there's a reason why people absolutely love not only that
yeah.
movie but that character, and
Hmm.
it's absolutely. I mean, look, that movie is balls to the wall action,
Yeah.
but it's not ever boring
No.
because it's that character that's leading you through it the entire way.
And you get it. You get, I mean, it's even though the dog thing is huge, it's really all about the wife and
Mm-hmm.
their relationship, and this guy taking sort of the last reminder of her, and last good thing out of his life and his car.
Yeah, dude. Those are great examples. So like
Yeah.
when you're trying to do it, like what are you? I mean, like so for Athena, like how are you thinking that through? Like how did you want to develop Sarah and also explore the other characters through action
Right.
when you were doing that?
Well, I mean, I was definitely inspired by Derek's John Wick because I sort of wanted to see, if this woman who had sort of created this life for herself and fell in love and sort of got out of this whole thing that was her past that was sort of dragging her down. And I think I sort of mentioned at some point that basically her husband had hit rock bottom, had substance abuse problems, and then her rock bottom was at the same time, which is she had sort of lost this family that she had tried to help because she was betrayed by the government, and that's why she decided to leave. So I think then losing him, and I feel like that was what motivated the whole script. This, and then she finds out she's pregnant, and she has to really just make this new decision. Does she go on with this? Does she, seek revenge for the loss of her husband when she's carrying this new life that they had sort of both hoped for, and she had been sort of scared of because she wasn't sure she was, someone who could raise a child.
Yeah, and I was really shocked that she killed her dad at the end because that just didn't seem like, what you would expect, right?
Right.
Like you would kind of expect everything to wrap up nicely and oh, they're cool with each other again. They found that love between them, and
Yeah.
everything ties up nicely. And now he's going to be a grandfather, and it's going to be really cute. And you didn't go down that path. You really you stuck with it. You stayed.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to go that darker route, and
but it said a lot about the character.
Yeah.
It said a lot about the character and the trauma that she dealt with, and it also backed up why she had been so successful, not only in her past life,
right,
but also in her mission in this movie, right? Like,
yeah.
Like it made
Yeah,
that
I mean,
feel
she's
way
against
more
overwhelming odds throughout, and
right.
She's sort of ahead almost the whole time because she's that good. She's that, even though she's rusty, she's this force. I mean, a little like John Wick. That once you activate, there's no stopping. So it's an unstoppable force on its.
Yeah, man, it worked really well. I had a ton of fun reading that one. So thank you for sending it my way. What about like set pieces? Like, how do you work through developing those?
I mean, in a similar way to the fight scenes and the action scenes, I sort of see them in my head. I mark out the choreography in my head and how things would work in the real world, or in at least in the motion picture world, if it's way out there. But the hard part is coming up with new stuff that feels different and feels like something that you haven't seen before, which I mean, there's so much that's been done that's amazing.
Yes.
So you kind of constantly trying to raise the bar and make it something special. And again, a lot of times you just go back to character. I mean, what's this character want more than anything in this scene? How do we make it happen? What are they willing to do it? Are they willing to drive the car from one building to the other? whatever works to get what they need. So a lot of it's from the character motivations.
So like when you're coming up with ideas and trying to like raise the bar, do something that hasn't been done before.
Yeah.
Like, are you somebody who just kind of like sits back and closes your eyes and thinks for a long time trying to figure stuff out, or are you like intentional about it and making lists of stuff, like, or do you have a way that you approach that?
I'm weird. I really enjoy writing.
Mm-hmm.
So if I can, I'll jump right in and just write and see what comes out.
That's awesome.
Again, if you're writing with someone, you usually have to plan it out and really outline as much as possible. And I do a lot more outlining than I used to do because I've also gotten lost a few times in scripts. Been like, I don't know where this goes. But if I can, I'll just write it, and then it, usually I'll go back and fix things if it isn't working or if it isn't that exciting. I'll say, what would bring this to the next level, and then I become a little more intentional during the rewrite. But during the writing, I try to do as much as possible with just what I want to do. I have a basic concepts usually, and then I'm just trying to figure out how they work.
Find the pathway.
Find the path. And I'm a big proponent of the puke draft. Just get it on paper, then you can change it and mess with it. The faster you do it, the more time you have to work on something and get it to where it needs to be.
I've definitely had scripts in the past where I've spent way too long on the first draft. That's just not worthwhile.
I used to do that all the time.
What was great is I got through it really quickly for me, and the accountability of like having to do it kind of along with this series was great because it really kept me on track. And now the draft is done, right? And like it's not that bad. I'm kind of going back through it right now, and
now you have something to work
up. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can see there is definitely a movie in there,
right.
And it's not completely there. Like it needs a little bit.
Sometimes you'll take some wrong turns and stuff.
But
Dave and I have actually, there's 3 scripts we've written that we rewrote like almost page 1, like 2 or 3 times each, because we had written something and we were like, this really isn't it. This is what we want. And we just had to refigure it out. And then it hasn't happened so much with my own stuff, but I've also, stopped at page 50 and been like, I don't get it.
Yeah.
This isn't really working for me.
Yeah, the page 1 rewrite's like an interesting thing, man. It's like,
see, for me, that you still have something, and what didn't work, so it's actually really easy for me to go and take even a completely different path for the characters, or even different characters. You've sort of gone down one road, and you're like, this didn't work. Yep. What if I tried this road? And then at least the other path didn't work at all. And
totally,
I find that usually goes much faster than if you just outline every little detail and and you change it in the outline, and then just for me. I mean, I'm
everybody's
relatively
got a different
fast.
process. It's been super interesting to actually talk to so many people in detail about their processes, kind of just one-on-one or whatever, because it really is interesting to see how much they vary. And I love that. And almost every single one of these conversations, like I picked something from it. I'm like, I'm going to try that. Like, that's pretty cool,
And there's no right way. I mean, you just,
there's not, and it changes from script to script. But, I've done several page 1 rewrites on scripts before. And like, it's always really hard for me to pull the trigger on it,
sure.
And just, but then like once I do it, it's almost freeing, and it's like, okay, now I can really go for it, you know, and it feels good almost right away. Like once you're a few pages in, you're like, okay, this is better. Like, this was the right call.
I used to be like that, and then I just started dating drafts and been like, look, I wrote that version. It's a totally different version. This is a new script. And just, go from there. And I have no ego with the old script. I'm like, it's didn't work.
That's awesome.
This didn't work. And it's useful for doing that. Again, everyone has their own process, and whatever works, as long as it works for you, that's all that matters.
How many drafts of Athena did you do?
Let's see, I did probably about a dozen before I sold it. Then I did about 6 or 7 producer passes for free, but for trying to get directors attached, trying to get all sorts of stuff. And they were all good notes and stuff. So I was like, sure. Relatively minor too. There weren't like, page one rewrites or anything. And then I had some creative producers, including my manager. They had some cool ideas that I would incorporate. But and then I did probably 4 or 5 director passes with the last director.
So you did over 20 drafts of this script.
Yeah, but again, it's
Okay.
most of them were tweaking and polishing drafts. They weren't like full rewrites. There
How
were a
about
few.
those like dozen before you sold it? Like
those were pretty. I mean, they were pretty thorough rewrites, but they were. I mean, they were also mine. I got to cut.
So how long of a process was that?
The funniest one was actually before we went out. We had 3
Mhm.
producers who liked it and took it to different places and they all had different ideas of what they wanted to do with the first act. So I had to like incorporate all their ideas, but some of them were opposed. And I was like, okay. But it was trying to incorporate like 3 different people's ideas, and I was just like, I got rid of all of that by the time you read it.
How long did it take you to get through a dozen drafts of the same script before you sold it?
Not long. Again, it doesn't take me that long. Probably, it usually takes me about 3 days to a week to finish a draft, rewrite draft. So probably.
Are you talking about when you're starting from like scratch and you're writing like all
rewrite
words for?
I mean, I've written a feature in 3 days, but that was like, I wouldn't recommend it.
Shit.
That was brutal. And I only did it because it was for a producer, and
that's insane.
There was a shot of it getting set up, so I probably wouldn't do that again.
Yeah, I mean but dude, that's like, I think it's important for people to hear though, because that's commitment, right? Like, I mean,
yeah,
being willing to rewrite something a dozen times, like that's not what most people do. Let's be honest. Like, most people are not willing to put that effort in and completely take a new perspective and a new perspective and a new perspective and try and get it better. And so that was your script that got you into the guild.
Yeah.
Okay. So there you go. That's that's all you need to do is write 40 scripts and then rewrite one a dozen times, and then you're in.
You're all set. It's easy. Though it's harder now, I would say. It was actually easier to sell a script back then.
Yeah.
But
that's what everybody wants to hear.
Yeah,
that's what I want to hear right
again.
now. So
again, a lot of it was this year was sort of disrupted everything, and last year was a little rough too. But I think a lot of that was there was guild stuff going on. We had fired our agents and done all this other stuff. So
yeah. But you said you're with Gersh, right?
Yeah, originally I was with APA.
So Gersh,
but during
Gersh
the big
one of the first ones to like kind of come back on board.
Yeah, they were one of the first big ones that came on. I was with APA, and then when we were all told we should fire our agents, we parted, and I think I needed a change because we also weren't getting stuff out there as much and getting anything going on. So I ended up signing with Gersh when they came in, which they came a little before APA. I think they signed like 2 weeks or 3 weeks before.
How hard was it for you to switch reps and find new reps? Did you get referrals, or how did that work?
My manager helped a lot with this one.
That's cool. Who's your manager, by the way?
Jim Wedaa. That's Parallax Talent Management. I've been with him 12 years now. He was the one who encouraged me to move out here, and I think I hooked up with him from American Zoetrope. I was a finalist in that, and he read my script on that.
Dude, Zoetrope, that brings back memories, man.
Yeah, it was 2009, I guess. 2008, maybe.
So you weren't in LA back then?
No, I was still in New York. I moved into January 2011. So in January, I'll be 10 years.
Okay. Wow. Because I feel like, I think the first time I met you in person was like 7 years ago or something, but I feel like we've been Facebook friends for almost that entire time.
Well, Facebook groups and all that.
Right. But so you said you only knew like Dave before you moved out there pretty much?
I mean, I had some Facebook friends who were writers, and then I had, I met, I used to go to Comic Book Sundays. I met a few producers there, and some friends, and Derek Hughes, who's a TV writer. He was I met him there, I think, the first time. And then I met my friend Chloe Dykstra, who sort of had a large nerd contingent, which is sort of my people. So I met a bunch of people through her, and a lot of creatives, a lot of costumers and actresses and actors and writers, and some directors and producers and stuff. But,
I mean, this is something I would actually be interested to talk to you about, because you seem like somebody who knows a lot of people. And I know that you said like people. you don't think that you're like a networker or whatever.
I'm not. I don't know how to.
But you seem like you have a network. Like how does that happen? Because I think a lot of people are terrified of it.
I mean, I think I do it the way a lot of people you do it successfully. Is you're not really networking. You're just making friends. You're just meeting people.
Totally.
And every once in a while, some of the people you meet who like you a lot will, maybe think of you for work or think of you for stuff. But like I know a ton of producers at this point, but not well. And most of them don't call me up out of the blue. But I also know some writers who would call me up and be like, I thought of you for this project. What do you think? So stuff like that happens. I think I've had the most success just knowing other writers and being friends with them. I know TV writers are the best at networking because they're also lucky enough to be with people for like 6 months or so and almost become family. And,
yeah, man, it's hard to get staffed if you don't know people to begin with.
Yeah, it's very difficult. I'm still trying on that end, and I have a TV pilot that we've been waiting to go out with forever that we're finally going out with next year, which I'm excited about. I've had producers attached to it for like 3 years, I think, 2 or 3 years, and I've had a showrunner attached for 2 years. And,
what?
Yeah, we just this year was a dead one. The year before, I think we had a lot of conflicting times because we also had an actress attached who was part of Lucifer, and she ended up getting brought back into Lucifer, which was awesome, but not great for us because we all wanted to pitch it together. And then, it was just challenging getting it together. And then the year before that, we were trying to get the showrunner attached, and I was doing rewrites for him, which I actually enjoyed a lot. He's brilliant. So it was fun getting it to where he wanted it and was happy with it.
Yeah. So, I mean, ended up being a learning experience for you. And so,
yeah, that's
cool. So like, as far as like just making friends with people, because I guess that's what you do really well. Like, do you intentionally like kind of like show up at places where you'll get to make friends with people at all? Obviously just
I used to go to a lot of parties. I used to go to a lot of parties, which helped a lot.
Yeah.
I'm one of those sort of on the border between extrovert and introvert. I like my alone time, maybe not 8 months of it, but I like it. But I also like, going out and seeing friends and being out with people. So I used to go to a lot of these big parties they had, and that's where I met a lot of people. And then my reps were good about going out pretty wide with scripts. So I met a lot of producers that way through generals and stuff like that. And then I think just I've always been open to like, saying hi to people I don't know. It's tough, because I am also relatively shy, but I also like, meeting people, meeting cool people. And there's a lot of, I found I love LA, and there's a lot of great people out here. So I've met some of the coolest people. So that's been awesome.
I definitely like, I think what you said about just being able to make friends with people is spot on. And that's always been the way that it's worked for me, like just as far as networking goes. And my networking inside of film has so much that started just online, and then it obviously expanded as I got to know people and traveled out to LA and stuff. But definitely just in person too. It's just like, I said this to somebody the other day, and I really believe this. Like, even if you're taking a general meeting or something, like it should feel like a conversation over beer is way more than an interview.
No, absolutely.
So it's you just want to get to know people and who they are and what they're interested in, and that is infinitely more interesting and valuable than trying to have a nuts and bolts business conversation.
Right. Or just the sort of traditional way of thinking of networking where you're just meeting people to get something for them or do something, which it just doesn't work.
People smell that right away, like and
I've never been comfortable with that sort of thing.
No, dude. I mean, the last thing you want is to come across like you're just trying to get something out of it, and or last thing you want is to come across as desperate. Either of those things, just people are going to run the other way.
Exactly, and it's if you meet people and they actually want to help you, in the end, that's awesome. I hear a lot of cool stories about people on Twitter these days, especially last year. Reaching out to writers of experience and getting help and stuff and feedback and actually creating relationships that way. Just becoming sort of friends.
I mean,
and not looking for anything.
Sorry, what were you gonna say?
And not looking for, not saying, can you get me a job or something, just being like, I really love this episode you wrote, something like that.
Totally.
And then, sometimes they think of them for stuff. They're like, oh, I know you're a huge fan of Legacies. Let me get you in the room they're looking for a new writer, blah, blah, blah. So I've heard a lot of cool stuff about that, which
that's cool.
That's the best kind of network where you're just like, you're making friends with people and they think of you because they like you. And they're like, oh.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing that people don't realize. Like, people do want to help people, and that's always been my experience is, most writers and most other people are very willing to be generous with their time, but they're going to be selective about who they're generous with that time with. Like, they want to know that you're somebody that is actually going to put in the work and that, is actually, going to stick with it, and that isn't going to either be super annoying or embarrass them,
Right.
And
a lot of it
I've definitely found that people are really helpful. So
what rating is this? A lot of it is just not being an asshole.
Yeah, man, it's a huge.
Yeah.
So, and that's like everything. Just don't be a dick. And
it goes far. Be a nice person if you can. If you are, that's great. And people like that. People will respond to the fact that you're generally a nice person.
For sure.
And you treat people with respect wherever they are in the stratosphere of the entertainment business.
Yeah, it goes a long way. And I think and people also talk too, like if you are an asshole, people will hear about it.
People hear about it for sure.
And
honestly, I know on the TV side, a lot of showrunners would rather work with an okay writer who's cool and a nice person than an asshole who's brilliant anytime. Because
for sure,
ruins the room. And
it's the same for anybody.
It's true for a lot of producers. They're like, if you're making a movie with a producer, a lot of times you're working with them for months also, and they don't want to work with it.
Just from my day job, as because I'm a hiring manager,
right?
Like I hire people that are qualified, but I also hire people because there's somebody that I want to spend 40 hours a week with, so
that's what it's about.
That's important. So,
no, absolutely.
So dude, I just finished up this draft of my spec ether last week.
Awesome.
Very, like I said, rough draft. And
congratulations, man. That's always huge.
Thank you.
And finishing any draft,
about it.
Huge.
What's that?
Finishing any draft is huge.
Yeah, no, it feels really good because this is the first script that I've finished in like 4 years. So
it's enormous.
Since then, it's awesome because I've been writing tons of like short stories and stuff like that, and was working on a novel and things like that in between. But I had kind of put aside screenwriting completely, and now I'm 100% back at it, and it feels right and great, and I'm so glad to be doing it. So I'm combing through it now. Um, I know that there's a few things that I want to do better, and also I just want to clean it up and make it as good as possible for this round of readers. And then it'll be going out to the first round of readers on Friday.
Awesome.
And then I'm gonna like take a couple weeks off from that. And I just thought it'd be cool to talk about like what's your process like after you finish a draft? What do you do, to uh, as far as cleaning that up, getting it out to readers? Like, how do you
Right.
work? Do you take a lot of time off between drafts, or
I
you just keep
don't
going,
anymore.
going?
A lot of time. I used to take like a couple weeks. I'm always usually working on multiple projects at different stages because that's what I like to do. Uh, it allows me, if I'm like stuck or a little bored with one, I can move to the other, and it's at a different stage, so it's usually a different part of the brain,
Mm-hmm.
and then usually that opens things up for the original thing anyway. And
That's
usually
cool.
there's one primary one. If I'm getting paid, obviously that's the only primary one for the while.
Right.
But if I'm not getting paid and there's one that's the focus, it's usually probably the furthest along or whatever I want to go out with next. But so I used to, when I ended a project, I would then focus on the other ones for a little while, try to get them going, and then like after a week or two, I'd go back to the original one. Now I don't know if it's because my brain is parched these days and I don't have the memory I used to, but I'll look at a script that I wrote the day before and be like, who wrote this? so so I could just go back like the next day and start rewriting.
Oh man, that's amazing.
I don't know if it's a good thing, honestly. I really think it's a memory problem I have, but
It works.
yeah, I mean it works, and I can
I actually
look
think
at
a
a script
memory
with.
problem is a great thing as a writer.
In this particular case, it works well because I'll look at a script the next day and it's like, this is whose script is this? I can totally fix it. Who did that? That's dumb. And then start going through it and messing with it. So I pretty much dive right into rewrites these days. And again, if I'm stuck or if I don't want to do that, then I'll work on one of the other projects. But usually there's one I want to get done, so I'll do the draft and I'll start doing the rewrites. And these days, I would say my first draft is pretty close to where I'm going anyway. It only takes like 2 or 3 drafts maybe to get it to where I'm really happy to show the reps. So usually again that's like 3 days to a week, maybe 2 weeks if it's a particularly bad first draft or needs a lot of work, or something's not working at all. But yeah, that's usually how long it takes, and then I'll probably send it to my manager first, and when I do that, then I immediately work on a different project because I just put it out of my head. And then usually he'll get back to me. He's pretty good about reading within a week, and he'll either have notes, which I'll either like or not like. And if I like them, I'll do them. And if I don't, then I'll be like, yeah, I think it's good. Show it to the agents. And I'll wait for the agents. And while I'm waiting for the agents, I'll also work on new stuff. That's how you do it if you're trying to get stuff done. You got to have multiple things going because you never know when one's finally going to pop or do something.
I think it's so important for people to kind of hear that work ethic, though, because I think there is a misconception about the amount of work that it takes to be successful in this world, but like if you don't put the work in, somebody else is going to do it. So
there's art, there's craft, there's all sorts of elements, but it is a job at the end of the day. And when you're trying to make movies and make.
So you said you've been doing it full time for like 10 years now?
Yeah, it's gonna be 10 years in January.
And you've been guild for like 4 or 5.
Yeah.
So like that's one thing that you don't hear about that often is, so you were making it work as a full-time writer for several years before you were guild. How did you make that work?
Not easily, but I had some options. I had a bunch actually, and I had some savings from my old job. I was a stagehand on Broadway, and I saved up when I moved out here. I had a cushion, and then I sucked up my annuity which is gone now. Which
You did. Wow.
Yeah.
So that's ballsy, man.
Yeah, I was like, this is what I want to do. Unfortunately, I got the 10% extra tax hit, which was not
Yeah,
fun.
I mean,
but
totally. Like you're gonna suffer if you spend that money for sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a
that basically got me through the first couple of years, and then got another couple of decent options, and I got hired by a producer to write a pilot and a couple of little, basically small stuff. I get hired to do little jobs that would keep me going. But it was a tight few years. The first few. Red Widow was basically the first big, where I got some money and I had to make that last because I didn't make anything until the following year, like late in the following year. And then that one I had to make last because I didn't make anything for the entire year after that until I sold another script. But it was a big adjustment learning to go from a steady paycheck, making decent money every week, to making a good amount on one chunk and having to save it and make sure you are conservative and not spending it all.
I mean, I think that's great to talk about, for a few different reasons. So one is like leaving behind that security, right? Like, I have a really good job that I actually like, which is impressive, especially right now. And I'm very grateful for that. And, but like, this is actually what I want to do. Right. And like at some point, like if I really want to pursue this, it's going to be me leaving that security behind. And
there is more security on the TV side once you do break in.
Right. But that means
but even that is not as.
And I have to move to LA for that. Like there's no way around it. Right. I know some people who make a feature living work from outside of LA. Not many. I know a couple. But
usually it helps if you're already established too. If you've got connections.
Yeah.
You've sold some stuff and had some stuff made.
But it's the point is, like, I think like you're a perfect example of like the sacrifices that you had to make and the risks that you had to take to get to where you are with it now. And you obviously are looking to take it even further than this. Like you're looking obviously to get things produced. You want to see your stuff on the big screen. And like, I think it's so important to just kind of for people to understand, like, that's what it takes, right? Like you picked up and moved across the country, not knowing that many people at all. And like, you left behind the security of your steady good job, and you burned through your savings. And not only that, like your annuity, and you wrote 40 scripts and did a dozen drafts on the one that like you just sold. Like that's a story, man.
And everyone's path is different. Some people will come here and 2 weeks later have sold and have a script that's getting made, and that's amazing and awesome. But it's a combination of luck, talent, skill, the right script in the right place at the right time. So I think it was a combination of, I knew I wanted to do this. This was all I wanted to do, and I was ready. I knew I was ready, and it was just the time to either do it or forget about it, or keep doing it from New York as a hobby, basically.
It's awesome, dude. I think that's super admirable. Yeah, I mean, for us, LA is not necessarily off the table, but like, there's so much that goes into that.
Yeah, there's a lot of challenges, and again, you can do it from outside. And I will say, even with Zoom rooms and stuff, it's even possible to do TV outside these days. We'll see how. We'll see how long that lasts. But I will say, I think it's going to be. I don't think Zoom pitching is going to go away.
That makes sense.
I think a lot of people are enjoying that. So it won't be as difficult in some ways, I think, operating outside LA. But it's certainly, when I came, you had to be here if you really wanted to make connections, and you want to meet people. A lot of the stuff that happened in a good way, like John Swetnam, he's responsible for getting me my agent, and all sorts of other options and stuff that were just for meeting producers and independent guys who were wanting to make movies out here. It was it's challenging, and you need to look out and make sure you can do it. But if you can, I definitely have no regrets. I love writing, and I love being out here. Doing it full time is awesome. So I will say I probably should have gotten a job. I wouldn't have written as much, so maybe but the first couple of years would have been a lot easier, I think, if I had some kind of job. But I would, it worked out for me. I'm not going to change anything, but I would recommend to people who want to do it, it's probably better to get some kind of day job, because then you'll have some kind of security. I had a few months where I was like, could be homeless soon. Don't know. So,
I mean, you obviously made it work, dude. Super cool.
So far, so good.
Well, man, I really appreciate you taking some time to connect, dude, and talk about all this great stuff. Everything from action writing to kind of how you not only broken in, but really like made a go at it all the way.
It was a pleasure. I enjoyed talking about it and talking with you about it. I'm excited for you about it, the script and everything. I think that's awesome.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I'm excited too. It's just like it feels so great to be back at it. Like I'm absolutely thrilled to be back in the game. It feels like it just feels right. Like it fits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally understand that feeling.
Thanks again, and all the best with everything you got going on, dude.
Man, I'm sure you can tell by that interview, but I'm just so impressed and inspired by Matt and everything that he's done to get to where he is. Just his work ethic and his tenacity and resilience. He really made a bet on himself in taking several risks, and he stuck with it for a very long time. And now it's paying off. And I know that stories like that, when you hear that somebody had to write 20 scripts and spend a decade and, move to LA and risk their savings in order to make all that happen. I know that kind of thing can sound discouraging sometimes to newer writers. And, or maybe you think like, well, that's not going to be me. And what I can say about that is, in my opinion, that comes from a perspective where everything is just driven on talent. And that's just not the way that it is at all. You talk to anybody who's had some real success in this business, and they will tell you that it is a result of a lot of very hard work over a very long time. And, also a strong network. But again, that's something that also takes time. So to me, stories like that are actually really encouraging, because they tell me that it's not just about the talent that somebody was born with. It's also, it's possible to make something happen with enough grit and discipline. And I think that that's pretty cool. So for me, I just finished my first draft. It is now the best it can possibly be, and it is out to that first round of readers. And I will admit, I'm totally anxious and terrified about, what they're going to think. I have no idea what I have right now. I'm just way too close to it. So episode 16 should be pretty interesting. We'll see what they've got for notes, and you'll see that all right here. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. In the meantime, I'm just going to kick back and relax for a couple weeks. I'm working on a short story for my son for Christmas, which is kind of a fun change of pace, and just watching a lot of movies, hanging out with the family. And that's great, because honestly, it's been really hard to keep up with all of this stuff and the screenplay all at the same time. So I'm enjoying a little bit of a breather, because there will be plenty more work to come as soon as I get these notes back. Like every week, I'm giving away a copy of Malice and Mistletoe, signed by myself and by Jack Purcell. If you'd like to win this week's copy, comment below how many years or how many scripts it took you to get that first break. If you haven't had your first break yet, just comment below how long you've been at it. For me, as I've mentioned a couple times, it took me about 7 years to get my foot truly in the door. And now I'm trying to do it all over again, and it's been about 15 to 16 years since I first started. So yeah, I think it'd be cool to just kind of have a running discussion in the comments showing how long it takes people to really make that happen. So if you comment below, I will send one of you a copy of Malice and Mistletoe. Up next week is Matthias Caruso, who is awesome writer. He writes really fun scripts and really fun movies. He broke in from Argentina, and he still lives there. And he's got his name on a couple Hollywood movies. He is a WGA screenwriter, And he's made all of that happen, not just from outside LA, but in a different country entirely. So as somebody who lives on the East Coast, and right now it's kind of, it's undetermined whether or not we're going to be moving to LA. I'm really interested to see how he's managed to make that happen, because I think that's really cool. So make sure you subscribe so that you don't miss it. And with that, happy holidays, everybody. Smash cut to black.